being colonized by an African country that sits in the African Union. In 2022, September, we got a judgment from the African court which declared the occupation of Western Sahara by Morocco illegal. The African Union is here to comply with the judgment. So, comrades, you are welcome. For our comrades in Cuba, this is beyond solidarity. This is a meeting of brothers and sisters involved in the same struggle for emancipation of humanity. Emboldened by the gangsterism displayed in January when Venezuela was attacked by the United States of America, and the capture, that is the word, by Trump. Trump announced that he had captured the president of that country and his wife. Captured. So when the BBC, its reporters should not be using the word capture. Trump used the word capture. And only a terrorist can say, I have kidnapped another person and his wife. And Trump was very happy that he engaged in gangsterism. All his actions are totally against international law. And the man has said, I do what I like. And that is dangerous for peace in the world, global peace. For a man who is not very quiet, because I'm convinced that Trump cannot clear. He cannot. Now, emboldened by that criminality, he threatened to effect regime change in Cuba. But haven't discovered that the Cubans are going to fight to the last man and woman. So what do? I cannot invade this country. Because we have done it before and we failed. You know, the US has invaded Cuba before in 1962. America was disgraced. So they don't want to do that again. So what do? Let us, and I think our comrade used the word, and chair, suffocation, economic suffocation. Let us suffocate this thing. It's genocidal, like the ambassador has said. It's genocide. We want to suffocate the Cuban people. We want to asphyxiate them. I think that's their language. Asphyxiation. You deny somebody of oxygen, energy. It dies. And that is what America has done. Don't allow any country to supply oil to Cuba. And Cuba lives on oil. Like other nations. America says any country that supplies oil to Cuba will be an enemy. And we are going to impose tariffs. Well, last Friday, the Supreme Court of America ruled that Trump lacks the power to use tariff under the Emergency Act. And that was the act that was invoked in the case of Cuba. Therefore, we are calling on friendly nations like Mexico, like Canada, to study that judgment very well and resume supply of oil to Cuba. Trump is in trouble. He's trying to look at other laws, but the one that was used to harass Cuba, the Emergency Act, has been declared illegal. And the Supreme Court is saying, thou cannot do that unless you go to Congress. He is not sure that the Congress will endorse the economic suffocation of another country that does not constitute a threat to the United States, contrary to what Trump has said. How can you say that Cuba constitutes a threat to America? That's what Trump is saying, in order to have a justification to invade that country. But Cubans have continued to show resilience, that we are going to defend our revolution. We are ready to negotiate, we are ready to dialogue, but we are not going to compromise our socialist cause, and that is very important. Trump is not just fighting Cuba. You know, one of the, I think his Secretary of State, Rubio, his parents were supporters of the Batista criminal gang in Cuba. And that was the regime that was overthrown by the revolution. So their son now, the Secretary of State, is trying to persuade Trump that we must invade this country so that they can reduce Cuba to what it was. Just an island for the bourgeoisie in America to enjoy themselves. But the Cubans are saying, we are not going back, we are moving forward. You can never succeed. And so for the friends of Cuba, we are saying this is the time to show solidarity, to show commitment to our friends, and to tell the enemy, you are not going to win. I've heard people here, just like African Union, remove Cuba from the list of sponsors of terrorism. Now, for me, that is the language of America. Terrorism is the use of violence to achieve political objectives. That's what they say terrorism is. Going to Venezuela to remove a city head of state and his wife is terrorism. But the same man who said he wanted to restore democracy, bourgeois democracy in Venezuela, has now said, I went there for oil. I mean, you know, it can't be a man who is mentally okay. He has said that publicly. I went to Venezuela to steal the oil. And stealing is going on of the resources of that country. And how can you announce, now I am going to control another country? You cannot be a serious person. And that is what is going on in Venezuela today. American companies are asked to go back and take as much as possible, much oil and other resources of that country. But I can assure you, the people of Venezuela are going to rise up, because the resources belong to them and not to the United States of America. So what America wants to do, we have defeated Venezuela, we are now going to Cuba. But it's going to be difficult to use the same method. So let us try and make sure that these people are starved to death. The United Nations has warned that if the embargo continues, you are going to have unprecedented humanitarian crisis in Cuba. And therefore, friends of Cuba are moving. Mexico sent 2 ships to take relief materials to Cuba. Canada just announced yesterday, enough for what we have seen on the television. We are going to assist Cuba. African countries must wake up and assist Cuba more than ever before. Please, let our people know this. The United States itself is in trouble locally. Therefore, Trump has been forced to announce relief materials worth $6 million to Cuba and $3 million to take care of victims of Melissa, the problem last year. Melissa hurricane last year. Other countries are doing that. African countries must also rise Like our comrades have said, what Cuba has done in Africa cannot be quantified. Over 55,000 troops were sent to the Southern African region. And that is why you talk of freedom in that part of the world today. At the time, the US and Britain and other Western powers were in bed with apartheid forces. Cuba came to Africa and ensured that the liberation of that region took a new dimension. And today, if we are going to talk of the freedom of our continent, Cuba must be commended at all times. And like Comrade has said, whenever we have had problems, whether it's Ebola, COVID-19, Cuba has always come. Not just to Africa. Cuba sent doctors to 31 countries, including Italy, a member of the G7, whatever they call themselves. Cuba has to assist those countries. What is Trump doing now? Please, our support for Cuba is normal, it's African. Because as Africans, we must ensure that our friends do not suffer without any justification. And that is why, Madam Ambassador, please tell the people of Cuba that progressive forces in Nigeria are with them, progressive forces in Africa are with them. And I'm going to challenge the movement. After this program, we must also reach out to all our comrades and friends in Nigeria and the entire African continent, so that the African Union will go beyond passing beautiful resolutions. This is the time for action. Thank you very much.